All right, welcome into Starting Five on the Five Reasons YouTube channel. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me, Ethan J. Skolnick, and at Five Reasons Sports. Our producer today is Manny Chang. We're bringing back Starting Five on the Five Reasons YouTube channel. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, and turn the notifications on. Entering football season now and heading into basketball season. So I'll be here twice a week, 15 to 20 minutes a time, usually around 8:30, sometime before 9:30 on every Monday and Wednesday. You can also catch me on the channel every Tuesday and Thursday with Alex Dono. We typically go around 1 o'clock, sometime midday. We call that one the Five Guys. So I'll be on the channel every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. In addition to what you get from Five on the Floor, you'll be entirely sick of me by the end of football season. We're sponsored here today by Prize Picks. Make sure you use the code 5, F-I-V-E, legal again in the state of Florida. Here's the thing about Prize Picks. They've got a new promotion. You put down $5, they give you 50. So it's a 10-to-1 match now, and it's free money. They just hand it to you. Again, prizepicks.com. You can use it on any play there on the board. Again, you got to play 2 to 4 players together. It's called a lineup these days, and it's like a power play. If you remember the old power play where you got to get everything right. But again, if you just play 2, typically you put down $20, you'll win 60. So check it out, prizepicks.com. Use the code 5. All right, we're entering the home stretch of, I guess, the offseason, the preseason, the training camp season of the Miami Dolphins. And Adam K. Goodman makes the first comment here, and I'm not necessarily going to disagree. He says, we want Tannehill. The topic of this episode is what could derail the Dolphins. I don't want to be so negative here, but I'm expecting the Dolphins to win the division this year. They need to win the division this year. And I am a big Mike McDaniel fan, but they need to win the division this year. And we're entering year 3 of this program. We're entering year 85 of the Chris Greer program. There are only 3 other teams in your division. One of them is going to be awful, the Patriots. Another one is relying on a quarterback coming back from an Achilles injury that doesn't seem to want to practice all that much in Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. And the other one, the Bills lost a lot of talent on defense and a lot of leadership on defense, including one of the players that you took, Jordan Poyer, if you're the Dolphins. So no excuses this year not to win the division. But again, this is a franchise that has not won a playoff game since December 30th, 2000. And so we don't take anything for granted here. We're basically at a quarter century since them winning a playoff game. You'd have to go look and see which other teams have not done that. I think there's only 3 in the entire NFL that haven't done that. And I was there, okay? I saw Lamar Smith run for 209 yards. I never thought that essentially you would be able to, if you were baby born at that point, you would already be able to drink for 3 years. Okay, that's how long it's been since the Dolphins won a playoff game. So again, I take nothing for granted, but this team on paper has been built, has been funneled to win at least a division title, which leads to a home game this season in the playoffs. So you get away from having to go to Kansas City in the frigid temperatures or Buffalo or any of that. At least your first game, you get your footing, you win a playoff game at home, and we go from there. That is the minimum requirement for this team this year. And if it doesn't win that, then everything's got to be looked at. And I know you just extended Tua, so you committed to him as your quarterback. He needs to win a playoff game this year. Needs to be healthy at that time of the year and needs to win when it matters. And again, I'm a big Tua guy also, but it's just reality. So I'm looking at it from the other side. What could derail them? And Adam just mentioned it. The backup quarterback situation scares the bleep out of me. And you saw what happened yesterday, which is that they cut Mike White. That was justified based on what we saw this preseason. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean, okay, that he won't ever return, because there always was the possibility that the Dolphins would keep just 2 quarterbacks. But when you're keeping just 2 quarterbacks and your starting quarterback, even though the starting quarterback did play, 17 games last year, did prove a lot of people wrong. We know that there is some injury history there. We know that he has missed time in the past, again, for a variety of things, whether it's concussion, coming back from the hip, or whatever. Low cap for life. Thanks for joining us. You're right. No more excuses. But we know that the quarterback, I don't want to use the word fragile here, okay? I don't want to use the word fragile. That's a word that's been used on someone in the Heat. But again, any quarterback in the NFL is fragile because any quarterback could go out at any time. And you have a former 7th-round pick who has been, let's just say, inconsistent, okay? There's tools there. But we're in year 3 of this. I give Skylar Thompson credit for what he did up in Buffalo. Again, inconsistent performance, but he was a rookie in a playoff game in a hostile environment. But he did enough good things to keep them kind of in the game towards the end of it. but I don't feel safe with him having to start 4 or 5 games. And I've said this before that, you know, you go back to the 2002 season, and I covered that season. That's when I was primarily covering the Dolphins, not the Heat. And that team was 5-1 after winning in Denver. They won 24-22 on an on a Lindo Mari field goal. Okay, 24-22. They were 5-1. They were being sort of anointed as the best team in the AFC. And Denver was good that year. They win. We go downstairs. Jay Fiedler, Aranda Gadsden, and Chris Chambers are all going for x-rays, okay, or to training rooms downstairs. Aranda hurt his thumb. There was a whole controversy about how healthy he was, when he could come back. It was kind of the beginning of the end for Aranda with the Dolphins. Chris Chambers, who'd gotten knocked out by Kenoy Kennedy, was never really the same receiver. But the big problem was that Jay Fiedler missed 6 games after that. And when Jay Fiedler missed 6 games, they went 2-4. And that included Ray Lucas's initial start, in which he committed, I think, 6 turnovers at home against Buffalo. And as someone who really liked Ray personally, it was hard to watch. But he was not suited to be a starting quarterback for any length of time for the Dolphins, even though he had won some games for Parcells with the Jets previous. This would be, if this was a 6-game stretch, this would likely be another Ray Lucas situation. And if you remember what happened that season, they went 2-4, but they kind of rallied back a little bit. Okay. They put themselves into 9-5 with Fiedler. And then Chris Carter drops the ball in the end zone against his old team, Minnesota. And then they have a complete meltdown in New England. They finished 9-7, and they missed the playoffs on a team that had Ricky Williams run for 1853 and Jason Taylor have 18.5 sacks. Again, same thing could happen. Okay. They need to go get a veteran quarterback. To me, that number one thing that can derail this season is they need to get a veteran quarterback. And I know Tannehill's been mentioned. Case Keenum's been mentioned. There are guys out there who could at least steward it for 2 or 3 games, because, again, I just don't trust that Skylar Thompson is that guy. And I don't think they necessarily trust it. I just think he was better than Mike White. That's it. And the Mike White thing, seems like a good guy from down here in South Florida, but it seems like one of those kind of got overrated because he played for New York and had sort of one of those Linsanity moments up there that we know happen in New York, where everything gets blown out of proportion because it's New York. But he didn't look capable of stewarding this team for any length of time. Eric Smith here, our guy. Make sure you follow him. He's our analytics coordinator here at 5 Reasons Sports. And he does a scouting combine with Hussam Patel early in the week, typically on Tuesdays. Eric says Tua, obviously, but after that, Ramsey is the number one guy to play a role. We don't have anyone to step in. Defense would look much different. I was going to go there as well. I think that if you look at the number one concern on the defense, to me, it's you had Phillips and Chubb, and Phillips is back before anticipated. Both are coming back from significant injuries. Phillips, to me, his injury is even more significant in terms of getting his total explosiveness back. But the question was, were you going to be able to generate any pass rush? All right, so we've seen that with Chop Robinson, and I think that with Weaver, they'll be able to figure out other ways to get it early in the season. So I'm with Eric, actually. Jalen Ramsey is sort of the eraser back there. He's the one that's going to make everything go, because he's going to force offenses to change the way that they want to play if he's playing at a high level. And again, Ramsey has come back from his own knee injury, looked better and better as the season went on last year, even though he looked pretty good when he first came back, and now should be totally healthy going forward, okay, unless something else happens. And again, he is the difference maker back there. And I love Holland. I think Fuller, to me, I think Fuller will be as good or better than Xavier Howard was towards the end, but it is about Ramsey. And so an injury to him would be critical, but also they have to figure out ways to generate pass rush consistently in this defense. They looked more organized when they had the entire group together than they looked last year. They look more bought in than they looked under Fangio. But again, as far as key injuries go, I'm with Eric. Ramsey's one guy you can't afford to lose. And then on offense, the other thing that could derail them here a little bit, obviously, is if they lose Hill or Waddle for any length of time, particularly, and we know they're going to lose them for a series here or there. They always do. There's always 2 series a game that Hill and or Waddle miss because of a hamstring, because of this, because of that, because of a big hit. It's just going to happen. It happened last year. And so even though they staggered them a lot last year and didn't have them on the field all the time, uh, one of the things we talked about a lot was, okay, they need another difference maker at the receiver position again, because they're both not going to be on the field all the time. But right now they don't have that difference maker. They went out and got Beckham. So far, that doesn't look like it's going to pan out. We'll see. Malik Washington got some opportunities here in the preseason. Is he ready to contribute significantly? I don't think so. And Berrios, we were talking about Berrios not making the roster, but now they're so out of bodies that he's forced to play in that situation. Of course, he's going to handle returns, or that's the expectation here. But he's not a difference maker receiver. He's a guy to go to on third down, and Tua has some trust in him. But again, Tua last year, the number 3 receiver was Durham Smythe. And again, they've gone out and gotten Smith at the tight end position. Looks like an upgrade there in terms of using him more in the passing game, using him more split out. And he will contribute to them. But they also need one more of these receivers to give them something again when Hill and Waddle are not on the field. And Azukama's injury, too, that looked like a guy who might pop this season or get into that mix. So I think you look at the things that could derail them. Okay. And now I'll get to the big thing. Obviously, any kind of Tua injury is, to me, if he misses 4 games or more, it's season ending for this team with how the quarterback position looks. Pass rush, if they can't get any pass rush at all, or at least not enough until Phillips is 100%, that's problematic. Okay. And we mentioned a Ramsey injury. The other thing that really concerns me, and I hate to keep harping on this because it feels like I'm picking on the guy every year, but do you feel comfortable with a kicker? Because I don't. And I kind of feel like the fact that he made some kicks late last season and got past that whole can't kick it past 50 thing was actually a negative now going into this season, because I think it became a reason to keep him. And I just don't think he's at the level of some of these other kickers around the league. And I do think that that's going to become problematic here for at least a game or two. Again, seems like a good guy. Made some big kicks late in the year. It was kind of like a big I told you so to a lot of us who were concerned about him the entire season. But I just don't think he's consistent enough from deep. In the modern NFL, your kicker needs to be able to make a 55-yarder on occasion in bad conditions. And he just hasn't shown over the past couple of years that he can do that all the time. So those are some of my concerns. We'll take some of your concerns. I still have them right now. I'm leaning towards 11-6. I think they could be as good as 12-5. I think 11-6 wins the division this year. I don't think you're going to need to win more than that, because I just don't see Buffalo being at the same quality overall that they've been at. Yes, they have Josh Allen, but a lot of the depth pieces have been lost. They got to find some new targets on offense. They're going to give them what Diggs gave them before Diggs kind of tailed off, and it seemed like things soured between him and Allen second half of last season. Certainly they soured in terms of the couple of coordinators that they had last year. But I don't think the Bills are winning 11 games. I don't think the Jets are winning 11 games. I know that Patriots may not win 11 games over the next 3 seasons. So I think if the Dolphins get to 11, they win the division. But those are some of the things I'm concerned about as far as whether or not they'll get there. All right. Thanks to those who jumped in here. You always can comment here on the show. Thanks again to Prize Picks. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E. Get that $50 match on the $5. So it's a 10-1 match. And thanks to our guy, Manny Chang, for producing. I'll be back on Wednesday on Starting 5. Tomorrow, I'll be on with Dono around 1 o'clock. Have a good one, everybody.